I built a $4 million per month business. I built it slower than I should have. Looking back at the last decade of operating, there are 4 specific decisions I should have made 5 years earlier. Each one alone would have saved months of grinding and tens of thousands of dollars in lost income. Together, they would have compressed my entire timeline by half. I'd be sitting where I am today by age 30 instead of 35. The agency would have hit $10 million a month before I turned 35 instead of being on the path there now. Most operators are making the same mistakes I made. They're waiting too long on every single one of these decisions. They're rationalizing the delay because the decision feels risky or expensive or uncomfortable in the moment. I'm gonna walk you through what these 4 decisions are, so you don't have to learn them the slow way like I did. I am Josh Crisp, VP of Agency Development at Uni Trust Financial Group. 600 agents, 95% retention, $4 million a month. I'm not telling you these things from theory. I'm telling you them because I lived the consequence of waiting too long on every single one. The cost of each delayed decision is etched into my actual business performance and into my mental health during the years I was grinding harder than necessary. Every operator waits too long to make their first hire. The math feels like you can't afford it. The income isn't perfectly consistent. The cash flow seems too tight. The risk feels too high. So you wait. You tell yourself you'll hire when revenue gets to X, or when the next quarter looks better, or when I can pay them out of monthly profit without dipping into savings. Then you make the hire eventually. Within 90 days, you realize you couldn't afford not to. Every month I waited to hire my first operations person was a month I spent doing $25 an hour work instead of $500 an hour work. The opportunity cost was enormous and invisible. I never wrote down the cost. I never calculated it. I just kept telling myself I was being responsible by not hiring yet. I was being expensive, the opposite of what I told myself. I should have made that first operations hire 18 months earlier than I did. By the math, I can run now. The business would have been twice the size 2 years later than it ended up being. The hire would have paid for themselves within 90 days through the productive work I could have done with the time I freed up. Here's the test. If you've been thinking about your first hire for more than 90 days, make it. The thinking is the cost. Every week you spend in indecision is a week you're not building leverage. The right time to hire isn't when you can perfectly afford it. The right time is when the work is clearly there and your time is clearly worth more than what you'd pay someone else to do it. For most operators, that moment was 6 to 18 months ago. Make the hire now. Most operators wait until they're drowning to invest in systems. CRM, operations software, training infrastructure, marketing automation, reporting dashboards, process documentation tools. The right time to invest in any of these is when you're 80% sure you'll need them in 6 months, not when you actually need them today. Because here's what happens when you wait until you need them. By the time you implement the new system, you've already wasted months operating without it. You've made mistakes that proper infrastructure would have prevented. You've lost clients because of follow-up failures. You burned out team members who needed tools you didn't provide. The implementation itself takes 60 to 90 days, during which you're trying to onboard a system while simultaneously drowning in the operational chaos that should have been fixed months ago. I waited until things were breaking to build infrastructure. That meant infrastructure was always behind growth. Every new agent we onboarded was harder than the last because our systems hadn't caught up. We spent enormous energy patching cracks that proper systems would have prevented. If I had invested $50,000 in operational infrastructure 18 months earlier than I did, we would have hit $3 million a month a year sooner. The infrastructure would have made every subsequent growth phase easier instead of harder. Build the systems before you desperately need them. The cost of building them ahead of demand is real. The cost of building them behind demand is much bigger. I held my pricing too long. Every operator who's been at it for a few years knows their offer is more valuable than they're charging for it. Most don't raise prices because they're afraid of losing customers. They worry about the conversations with existing clients. They tell themselves the market won't bear higher prices. The customers worth keeping rarely leave over fair price increases. The customers who leave over price increases were usually the wrong customers anyway, the ones who were extracting maximum value while paying minimum price. Losing them frees you up to serve the customers who would gladly pay more for the additional value they receive. I should have raised every fee in my organization by 15 to 20% 2 years before I did. The revenue impact would have been 7 figures. The customer impact would have been minimal, maybe 5 to 10% attrition from the most price-sensitive accounts. Those accounts would have been replaced within 90 days by new clients at the new prices. Here's the simple rule. If you've been at the same pricing for more than 18 months and your offer has gotten better in any meaningful way, raise prices. The new pricing should reflect the value you've added since you last set the price. This is one of the easiest profitability decisions in business, and one of the hardest psychologically because operators hate the idea of pricing conversations. But the alternative is leaving money on the table indefinitely while convincing yourself you're being fair to your customers. You're not being fair. You're undercharging. Fix it. I was the best closer on my team for years. That was a problem, because every hour I spent closing was an hour I wasn't spending on the work that only I could do. Strategy, recruiting senior leaders, building infrastructure, developing the company level vision. The thing you're best at is usually the thing that's hardest to delegate, so you keep doing it. And the bigger thing you should be doing, the work that requires your unique attention and that nobody else can do, never gets done. I should have stopped closing 3 years before I was forced to as equity partner. We would have built a stronger team faster because my time would have been on developing other closers, not on outclosing them. Here's the mental shift that took me too long to make. When you're the best at something, you assume you should keep doing it. The opposite is usually true. When you're the best at something, you're often the only person who can teach it. Your highest leverage is spent training others to do it, not doing it yourself. If you're the best closer in your business, your job is to make 5 closers as good as you. If you're the best operator, your job is to systematize what you do so others can execute it. If you're the best strategist, your job is to spend your time on strategy nobody else can produce. Whatever you're best at, that's probably what you need to stop doing yourself and start teaching instead. Hire before ready. Invest in infrastructure early. Raise prices. Fire faster. Stop doing what you're best at. Share the numbers. Each one alone would have saved months. Together, they would have compressed my timeline by years. If you're making any of these mistakes right now, that's the gift of this video. Make the decision sooner than I did. I built what I built the slow way. You don't have to. Subscribe for more lessons from building from zero.